Okay, I just recorded an entire video, and unfortunately, I just realized that I didn't have sound enabled, and it wasn't recording my voice as I kind of went through that. But anyway, I guess what I'm going to show here today is actually that I have the include if statements working for all declarations or global declaroids. So all declarations can now use this, whether they're sort of a member or global, can use this include if syntax, and it does now evaluate the expression inside of this before actually running it. So I'm going to run this little test here, and most importantly, you can see I've got this test here for archint equals 1 in the global context. Now I'll set that equal to 2 here, and we'll see that it'll fail. And we actually have two tests that are almost identical. The only difference is this target part of the test here. So I just kind of copied and pasted this. Now this one will actually pass with it equal to 2 because the target is set to Linux-x64, which is defined in the quxbuild.yaml file. So we have these two targets. So it's picking up the target name Linux x64 and Linux ARM64. And this is specifying what modules we want to use, and then like what's the platform and what's the CPU. And then you could have like different optimizations or whatever if you wanted as well. So you can define your different build targets, what modules each target uses, and so on. So that's kind of already been there for, sort of. But now we have these test constants. So we can see that this test failed, and we can see that this is expecting this to be false, or sorry, it's expecting it to be true. So that doesn't work. But if we change it to 1, we should see that it actually now works. So let's run that with the other value being 1. And then that should work if it ever finishes compiling. Okay. It would be nice to have a faster linker. Don't worry, the linker for Quxlang will be faster than the C++ default linker, hopefully. At least that's the plan. As you can see, we now passed the test. We can also execute this test up here, which has the expected value of 2. And we can see that that does in fact pass in the const_experb virtual machine. So indeed, we are able to do the include if. There are still some to-dos. So if we go into our main module here, one of the to-dos, for example, is what I want to be able to do is have this and operator here. So for example, if it's 6 and it's sorry, not OS kernel, that's not valid. OS Linux. So for example, and OS Linux, this doesn't actually currently work. So you see that it's actually going to fail to find the operator for and. So that is not currently available. But aside from this little problem where I just need to do kind of the same thing that I've done before with, adding some more primitive operators, which is fairly repetitive at this point. This does basically work. So we just need to add the Boolean operators the same way that we did plus, minus, and so on. Okay, so that is kind of where we're at. So you will be able to have include if these little constants work, and you can have another one like OS Linux and so on. And those will determine whether or not these are included. This is obviously different from like enable if, which happens during overload resolution. This happens before we even like list the declarations. So there's some important distinctions between include if and enable if with regard to like when it happens and therefore like preventing some sorts of recursion that could potentially happen in other situations. But anyway, so include if is now functional, and we can use it to affect any declaration. So for example, you could use it on the dot constructor or anything you want really. And it is a constant expression evaluator, which evaluates in the context of the parent scope. So for example, the include if context is not archint, it is the global module context in this case. So this expression has to compile within the module. So like if this is a class, you would not be able to reference members of the class inside the include if statement to decide if you include the class or not. Hopefully that's pretty obvious, but yep. So that's the include if, and yeah. So next steps are Boolean operators, I suppose. That's it for today.